Let's be honest, most of what comes out of Hollywood these days makes a mockery of America, but there's still a place telling stories that remind us why this country is worth celebrating. That place is Angel Studios. Like Sound of Freedom, a powerful true story that exposes the horrors of child trafficking, something to stand for with Mike Rowe, an incredible tribute to ordinary Americans who risked everything to defend liberty. And The Last Rodeo, a heartland drama about a bull riding veteran who comes out of retirement to save his grandson. It's the kind of storytelling Hollywood forgot how to do. Go to angel.com/Charlie and become a premium Angel Guild member today. Support entertainment that builds something worth passing on.
Now streaming on Angel.
Joining us now is a great friend and a great American, is Sean Parnell, Assistant to SecDef for Public Affairs, and Sean Parnell, Chief Pentagon Spokesman. Sean, you're a great American. Congratulations on all you're doing. Sean, I'm so excited to have you on the program because our audience is very confused and they want to try to get clarity on what's happening with the recent news with Russia and Ukraine. And so I just want to give you an uninterrupted opportunity to make the case and separate fact from fiction. Sean Parnell, Assistant to SecDef for Public Affairs.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me, Charlie. It's great to be back on the show after a little hiatus. Well, look, the Russia-Ukraine conflict has been a central focus for President Trump since he was on the campaign trail. If you remember back to the very first interview where he's had a town hall with Caitlin Collins and she asked him the ambush question of like, do you want Putin to win this war? President Trump responded with something very simple yet also very profound. And he said, I want people to stop dying. What we've seen over the last year, hundreds of thousands of people dead in this conflict, and a central focus of President Trump's second administration is bringing this war to a peaceful resolution. You heard President Trump from the Oval Office yesterday. Clearly, he's frustrated with Vladimir Putin stringing along negotiations. He doesn't seem like he's being serious. And so what we've done at the Department of Defense and at the president's direction and the SecDef's direction is provide a framework for munitions that we can send to Ukraine to help them defend themselves while the president pursues peace between Russia and Ukraine. And that's all we've done. And so we're going to continue to do that and give the president robust options as he pursues the peace.
So the skepticism from the audience, I would say, on the Russia-Ukraine situation is that they do not want to see America embroiled into another quagmire. I actually don't share that concern. I trust the president. I trust you guys. I think he demonstrated with Iran that he has incredible wisdom and prudence to be able to navigate this. So I don't share that concern. I do potentially see, in war, you have to enter things with humility because things can get out of control. And all of a sudden, NATO Article 5 could, I guess, get triggered. Also, the audience does not like the idea of giving away money. So is this a purchase agreement? Can you explain that this is a purchase, not a giveaway?
Yeah, it's such a great point. Basically, these are weapons made in America, purchased by NATO. So that's just what this framework provides for. And to your point about the base and the audience, I completely understand the skepticism and the fear as someone who fought in Afghanistan for 16 straight months, and to watch Afghanistan surrendered in 2021 was horrific. It hurts my soul just to think about it. And you look at American foreign policy in the 20th and 21st century, whether it's toppling autocrats from Egypt to Libya to Syria to Iraq and Afghanistan, none of that has paid off well for America. And especially when you look at wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, what do we have? You ask yourself, what do we have to show for those wars after being embroiled for over a decade in Afghanistan, almost 20 years? We have thousands of Americans dead, tens of thousands of Americans suffering from the invisible wounds of war, and hundreds of thousands of families who are affected by those conflict. And again, what do we have to show for it? So the skepticism and the fear from the audience is certainly warranted, but I think you have to think back to what President Trump has said and done in his first term. He was a president of peace with the Abraham Accords in his first term, and he's pursuing a path of peace here in his second. Look at the Houthi operation in the Red Sea. You had a clearly defined mission and an end state. Look at the Iran operation with Operation Midnight Hammer. You had a clearly defined mission and an end state. So for President Trump, peace is his focus, but in order to pursue peace and to give yourself the strongest hand available at the negotiating table, you have to be strong. And that is exactly what President Trump is signaling in this Russia-Ukraine fight so that he can set the conditions for peace moving forward. And by the way, I fully trust the president. He has never once violated the trust of this country or the American people. That's why people love this president. When he says something on the campaign trail, he makes good on the promise when he's in office. And by the way, that's something that has been very different from Republicans and Democrat administrations in the past. When the president says something, he actually does it and keeps his promise. That
is correct, and that is true. So Sean, NATO is purchasing the money. And is it fair to say that this is going to be a European-led purchase? Because obviously we give a lot of money to NATO. I know that Europe is giving more and more money to NATO. So is it NATO buying the weapons? Will it be mainly Germany? So kind of walk us through just a little bit. There might be classified stuff here, but I bet most of this is public. Kind of the scope of the deal.
Well, so first of all, we should give credit where credit's due to the Secretary of Defense, who has made it a focus of his tenure as SecDef to ask the Europeans to do more. It asked the Europeans to step up and spend more on defense, between 3.5 and now 5%. I would also add that 4 months ago, people were saying that it was not possible. People were throwing shade at the SecDef and saying that he couldn't get it done, but he did in conjunction with the president. So we have our European allies right now committed to spend more on their defense. And part of that deal is buying American weapons from America, manufactured in America, as part of this framework to help support Ukraine while he pursues peace. And as I understand it, this deal is very much, it's very much in the early stages, right? But you have different NATO countries wholeheartedly on board with committing, with giving their resources, financial resources, through EUCOM to NATO, which will then in turn be weapons to Ukraine and monies back to the U.S. Treasury. So again, this is a good deal for the country. It's in keeping with the SecDef's national defense strategy of asking for our allies to do more while we can shift our focus to the Indo-Pacific where we think it belongs.
I love that because it's got to be all eyes on the rise of the Chinese Communist Party, about their potential, military incursion with Taiwan.
Yeah, and Charlie, it's the most, you're right, it's the most pragmatic thing in the world. This is, America first does not mean America alone. And if the threats that we face in this world evolve, and they evolve quickly, and the threats, we think, a near-peer adversary in China represents what is a very real threat to America and its interests. China has said they've made it part of their strategic calculation to be the world's lone superpower, and we want to do everything that we can to stop that and keep America the #1 lone superpower in the world. Because America, by and large, is a force for good. In order to do that, we have to ask our allies to do more, ask our allies to be good friends and good partners, while we shift our focus to the Indo-Pacific, which is, again, where we think it belongs.
Okay, so Sean, now I want to talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill. I want to give you an opportunity to make the case for the increase in defense spending. Obviously, we're behind the president. One Big Beautiful Bill was awesome. But one thing, just little whispers and murmurs, especially among some of the younger demo, is they say, do we really need to now go to $1 trillion on the defense budget? Can you talk about where this money will be spent, where it is going, and how you believe this is necessary to fortify national security?
Well, I mean, look, the things that we're doing in the Department of Defense right now, and I would say in the first 6 months of the SecDef's tenure here at the Pentagon, he's done more than most secretaries have done in the last 4 years. The changes that he is making here in the Pentagon will be generational. I mean, he's making the Pentagon, I think, our country and the world a better place by some of these changes and removing red tape. So when you look at our overall budget, we need to have a budget that supports that unbelievable change, right? And so we're investing in historic things like F-47, a 6th-generation fighter. We're investing in things that have never been done before, with multiple Manhattan projects and Golden Dome for America to protect our homeland. We're talking about reinvesting in things, or investing in things that we've never invested in before, Charlie. And so we've got to give the SecDef the resources that he needs to accomplish the president's vision. And that's part of the reason why we have the resources that we do in this budget.
In closing here, Sean, talk about the increase of military recruitment. That is, it's one of my favorite things. I told Pete this privately and publicly. I said, Pete, you guys should be talking about this every day, because that right there, it's better than, some Rasmussen poll or some sort of, morning consult poll. The president has said this to me before as well, which is the best indicator of national morale strengthening, of the ability to see whether or not people believe in America and they want to serve the country, is military recruitment. Remember, after 9/11, military recruitment went straight up, right? We've seen this at different times in American history. And also, in the midst of Vietnam, voluntary military recruitment went down. Voluntary military recruitment started to go down towards the end of the Iraq War. It also was at record low levels per percentage under Joe Biden, especially after the Afghanistan withdrawal. Where is it now? And brag on the success of the increase of the military recruitment.
So right now I'm co-chairing the recruiting task force here at the Department of Defense force-wide. So we could probably do another interview deep dive on all of this because it's an interesting yet complicated topic. But you are absolutely right. The proof is in the pudding. And as it pertains to recruiting, leadership matters. So let's go back a year, where President Trump was almost assassinated on that stage in Butler, under fire. You don't know, even people that have all the training in the world don't know how they're going to react under fire. President Trump was almost assassinated on that day, and within seconds of being shot, the president stood up, pumped his fist, looked out to the crowd, looked out to our country, looked out to the world, and said, "Fight, fight, fight," defiantly. So you juxtapose that image with the image of Biden, his predecessor before him, who is an animated corpse, had to be dipped in the Lazarus pit every day. Every day it was less and less affected. Hardly an inspiring figure. And by the way, a week after President Trump was almost assassinated, Biden resigns the presidency in a PDF on social media, which is almost the equivalent of writing "I quit" on a napkin at work before you leave. I mean, Biden embodied weakness. President Trump embodies strength. Likewise, so too does Secretary Hegseth. And when you embody strength, it inspires people to say, hey, I want to serve under that commander-in-chief. I want to serve under the Secretary of Defense. And that is the reason why our recruiting right now has been historic. And I don't think there's going to be any end in sight, Charlie.
Sean Parnell, great work. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. You're welcome anytime here. And make sure you keep those recruitment numbers up. It's very important. Thank you so much, Sean Parnell.
You got it.
Excellent. Great guy.